I would apply the nose and scar wax to my skin, and it articulated with my face, gore, 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 gore. And I was cast as Bruno. I played Lon Chaney's character in the remake. They did stuff I've never seen in movies before. I guess it's kind of sadistic, but I really enjoyed scaring the crap out of people.
Welcome back to No Man's Friend. I'm your host, Garrett Van Team, and today I'm here with character actor Noel Jason Scott. Noel, thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, thanks, Garrett. Thanks for having me.
What people should know about you going into this is you've been an actor for a little while now. You've gotten a ton of roles in both known on screen for your VFX makeup appearances, but also off screen for the fact that you do it yourself. And to that note, you run a second Instagram account called Noelferatu.
Yeah, Noelferatu.
I was hoping we could start there.
Yeah, no. So I worked on a movie called Tales of Halloween, and it's kind of a little cult classic. It always shows up on line at Halloween time, and I'm friends with author John Skipp, and he had me be a part of his episode. There's 11 directors and 10 segments. And I'm sitting there, and I was a vampire, and I was doing my thing, and John Skipp walked by and was like, "Look at you, regular old Noelferatu." And I'm like,
So that's where that's the initial idea came from that. For the audience, did you know who Nosferatu was already?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm a huge vampire fan, if you can't tell. Yeah.
So when did you become a fan? How old is that?
Since I was a little kid. I think the first movie I remember seeing in the theater was It's Alive. My dad took me to see horror movies when I was a young child, and now look at me. But growing up with all like the classic Universal monsters and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and I've just always been a fan, and it's something that's just, I love horror films.
And then, so the Noelferatu persona happened after you'd already started acting. When did you get into acting?
Indirectly, about 30 years ago. I had some friends. I was a rocker dude back in the 90s, and I had some friends that needed a ride to Paramount because, us rockers were all bums. So I'm like, yeah, I can take you. And he's like, dude, you should try to get on. They're looking for fresh faces because they're mad. They want new faces, and I ended up getting cast in Airheads, and not just as a background extra, but they featured me because I was a fresh face, and it was my first time working on set and seeing everything and how it was all working, and I did a little bit of extra work, and this is like in '93, '94, and then I took a break for about 20 years, and then decided to get back into acting, did some theater. And kind of incorporated I was doing zombie makeup and stuff for myself and doing like things with my kids, like charity zombie walks. And I kind of just rediscovered that I loved horror makeup, and I had a lot of fun terrorizing people. So like on these zombie walks in public, because when 40 or 50 zombies show up, in a public place, it's kind of, you're not expecting it. And so I got to...
What are these for? I'm not from LA, so I'm actually not used to a zombie walk.
Okay. So we used to have these things called zombie walks, and there's a really nice guy, Antho was his name, and he had a thing called SoCal Zombie Walk. And he would organize these great events and get together all these haunt and scare actors that would all dress up like zombies, and he would do it for charity. He would do it for Spark of Love Foundation, so for like the fire department, and all these zombies would come together. We'd meet at a certain fire station, drop off a pile of toys for the kids. We made the grown firefighters cry because we brought so many toys, and it was awesome. And then he would do it for the F Cancer Foundation, and a school district that he was supported and stuff. But we would all get together and do like a flash mob where we'd all show up, make a donation, and then we'd terrorize the streets. So sometimes it'd be in Hollywood Boulevard where people weren't expecting it, and there's just tourists, and everybody's like, "What the hell?" and these zombies and stuff, and it was fun because people aren't paying attention. They're always on their phone, so it's really easy to scare the shit out of them and not get hurt.
That's
So I
great.
kind of so I started getting like I got a lot of response from the work that I was doing and experimenting and stuff, and so I knew that I could figure out a way to make this and transition back into acting. And I had a few friends that were in the industry, and I got cast as. Somebody tagged me in a post, and I ended up getting cast in a Danny Trejo movie called The Burning Dead. And I was a Donner Party cannibal zombie, and
Oh
that was a lot of
yeah,
fun.
that's fun.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was cool. I'm sitting there gnawing on meat and stuff. It was great. Um,
What was it like being on set with Danny Trejo?
Actually, he wasn't there because it's one of those movies. If you ever noticed, it's starring blah 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 and Danny Trejo, and that means that they paid him a lot of money and they put him on the cover, but he wasn't there on set. Uh, so I didn't get to meet him. I was really
Oh, is it
heartbroken.
is it so is it like one of those movies where he's like the villain or something, so they have him for like 3 days to do his principal
Um,
photography?
on this particular one, it was one day, and it was more or less technically, I guess, a wraparound, or he was the introduction. He played an Indian of all things. Like so, this is about an ancient Indian curse, and the he's sitting down at the campfire with his grandchildren and saying the hills are haunted and the ghosts come out of the spirit, blah blah blah, and they would
Ah, he
like
sets the
fade it,
scene.
yeah, and he faded into our story. It was really cool. But I got to meet a lot of cool people and do some stunt work, and I'd never done stunts. And I was choreographed with a guy that was Robert Amsler, and he was Arnold Schwarzenegger's body double in Terminator 3. So he was like as big as Arnold. He was from Austria, so he sounded like Arnold, and he was giving me like directions. He's like, "Do you know when they see did you read the script? You're on the very beginning, so it's very important that you don't suck because people will change the station like that." And I'm like, okay, because I'm like getting this pep talk from in my head. It's almost like Arnold, but so I was terrified. But he was really super nice, and we worked out our scenes. And when I would punch him or attack him and stuff, we were throwing each other into the snow. It was great. I never. It was my first time doing like actual stunts on film.
And you said that was your first time back.
10 years ago, and that would have been um, 2013? No, 2014.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so going even all the way back to Airheads, and then was it Airheads and then retirement, or Airheads era, some other projects?
I just extra work. The problem is back then, this is in the early 90s, minimum wage was $5 an hour. So you work an 8 hour day, you get $40. So it's hard to live on $40. And I had a day job that, paid a little bit better, but not much better. But it was just there weren't computers. The way the casting was, you had to call a line, and if they had, you have a look, and then you have to listen to all the calls like that. They're looking for a guy with long hair to play a rocker dude. Okay, I fit. They're looking for whatever the type of look. So I was kind of limited on my look, but that was a popular look back in the '90s. Um, so I did one episode of 90210, one episode of Melrose Place. It's like a bar patron or a college student, and it was interesting, but I was really shy at the time. I didn't. It was very intimidating. You know.
I see. You were just getting started at that point. So,
Yeah, and I kind of tried it out, but it wasn't. I didn't feel like driving almost 100 miles to Valencia to go there and back for $40. Even though gas was at 95 cents a gallon. Oh God, I'm old. I just life kind of took over. But when
for
after
sure.
having kids, I was able to show them that I was in Airheads and showed them my little scene, and they thought it was really cool. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get back into it for my kids to. Yeah,
You said that's also how you got into makeup was messing around with makeup with your kids. So,
yeah,
did
yeah.
you do makeup initially, or was that the beginning of it?
Just kind of like um, doing the zombie makeup for the zombie walks. I did my makeup and then I my daughter let me do her makeup, so she was like all into it. My son just didn't want to have anything to do with it, so I made him so that he could participate. Made him before there was all this Minecraft stuff. I made him his own Minecraft zombie head with like green felt and stuff, and it was a lot of fun to do and to. I mean, what dad gets to turn their kids into zombies and go around terrorizing people in Hollywood? Everybody was like pointing, look how cute his little family of zombies.
So
Um,
when did you realize that? Because I mean, there's a lot of like zombie makeup kits that people buy for Halloween, but when did you realize you had more of a knack for it?
I didn't actually buy one of those kits. So what I did was there's a Ben Nye. Uh, they make awesome quality makeup. I should get a plug for that. Yeah, Ben Nye, I'm available for demos and whatever. Send free makeup here. But so they had a ghoul kit, right? And it was kind of basically more or less an Uncle Fester type look. And that only went so far, but it didn't have texture. And then they had a 3D scar and effects kit that allowed you to like make cuts and wounds and so I was playing. I'm kind of obsessed with old school like Lon Chaney. He did everything out of his makeup kit. And it's like 100-year-old technology with the nose and scar wax. And I would apply the nose and scar wax to my skin, and it articulated with my face. I didn't like wearing masks because anybody could be in a mask, But when you have it connected to your face and you can articulate and look and give, it feels that much more real. And I'm a huge fan of practical effects. So it's just something that I got a kick out of, and it wasn't my daily life. I had a day job. I still have a day job, but that's one of the things that it's allowing me to kind of transition into a second career, and I want to do this full time now. But with strike and everything that's been happening, the industry is kind of not. It hasn't exactly settled back down yet.
It's still a bit uneasy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
spoke to Warren Smith in my first episode, and he was going on about how the writer's strike probably wasn't even that good for the writers, given some of the stuff they were asking for.
yeah, no, it 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 hurt everybody, and the deal that they ended up uh, uh, settling on was just to get people back to work
Mm.
because everybody was just hurting really bad. So I heard that to a lot of people it was a really bad deal. Um, 99%, 100% of everything I've done so far has been non-union. So the strikes didn't really affect, but there's in non-union work, there's relatively no pay. It's like you get paid for the day, you trade your time and do something fun. And I have I don't know almost 90 IMDb credits over the last 10 years, and that's just doing it part time. But the thing is that if you want to move forward in this world, you have to you know it seems like you have to be in the unions to be taken seriously. And so I
Can you speak to that a little bit more? What is the difference between the union and non-union, and then the types of jobs you'll get?
Well, I'm just starting to learn about all of the details. So the difference, like non-union, are like all the kind of the cheesy B horror movies that most of the things that I've done. Um, you don't have union. The unions charge a lot of money to join. You get a much higher rate if you get that type of work. But the non-union stuff, they kind of just negotiate on what your worth is or how much work you're going to be doing on it. If you're helping out friends or if you're have a big part. I've done it more out of a love for the craft than financial. If I did it for financial, I would have people. You have to be able to survive in this city, and there's no way I would have been able to survive doing what I've done without having a day job to kind of. I say I have a day job to support my acting habit, and but the thing with unions is that once you get into that world, it's professional. You work. If you get cast on a TV series, you have a day rate. You get paid, for however long that series lasts or however much time you're on screen. And so I'm just barely. I just joined SAG. I was a must join on a project that I can't talk about yet, But hopefully that will be announced soon if we can get it going. And if not, then I would love to be, dabbling in like going into commercial work and stuff because it's an easy like you show up for one day, you get to work. It's not that time consuming, and I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I'm curious, if you join SAG, and now that you said you're newly into SAG, can you do
Mm-hmm.
non-union work?
No, I can't. I'm kind of um, they're they frown upon that. So I haven't done anything. I kind of I've taken a little bit of time off recently. My dad had gotten very ill and had suffered from Alzheimer's. He had dementia. So I was his caregiver for the last 4 or 5 years, and he recently passed a few weeks ago. So it's been very difficult, um, a very difficult time for our whole family. And but this is uh, I didn't mind like I turned down a lot of work, over the last few years just because I just don't have time, and so the things that I've worked on, things that have been coming out, it's like I would get my daughter or my son to help watch my dad, and I'd be able to take a weekend off and a couple of days off here and there, and I would do little tiny, bit pieces. So um, I'm kind of feel like I'm starting over from scratch at this point. I mean, not exactly, but I just have to. I'm going to kind of rebuild and just kind of move forward. And but it was cool. I got to take my dad on set with me a bunch of times. We did a western movie called No Name and Dynamite. Like in the old Wild West, there'd always be the old guy sitting on the porch, like watching the gunfighters and stuff. So he got cast because he had a cool look and long hair and a beard. So
Also, he was in the movie.
yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah, we were both in the whorehouse.
Father and son.
It was cool. But it was a lot of fun, and so actually he got to be in a couple movies. He was in that. He was in the background because I brought him with me to set for um, what was it? Cholo Zombies 2, uh, uh, Monstro. It was called. So you can see him in the courtroom scene. I played a judge, and then there's another one called How to Kill Your Roommate and Get Away with It, and there's a zombie sequence that we filmed actually at my house, and like there's always that guy, the naysayer, like, "Oh, you're all gonna die," So I got that part.
The Harbinger. Yeah.
Yeah, so my dad did that in just a real quick scene in that movie. But that was fun, and it was cool that we got to um, spend his last days doing some fun stuff. So
Yeah, especially that he got to be a part of something that is clearly so important to you and your creative outlet.
thank you. Yeah, it was. It's special, and yeah, I love my dad, and I miss him bad.
How did he feel about you playing zombies and monsters and things in so many films?
You know, I thought he would be. I thought there's going to be a time because he's got Alzheimer's and dementia that I'm going to come out from the bathroom and be all zombied out. And I thought for sure that there would be a moment where I would terrify him and not mean to, you know, and he would just look up at me and laugh, so he knew it was me. So I would tease him and stuff, and we would put on TV or put on something and see if he would know. And he would just look at it and be like, "That's you." so, so he always knew. But he was always a big supporter of my career and of the arts. My dad had a degree in fine art, so um, the artistic side of it kind of is a generational thing. He's passed it on, and now my son's working on becoming a director. And he's going to be 20 years old, and he's already finished his second feature film. And my daughter's a guitar player, and she's a great musician. So it carries through.
That's cool to hear too, because you said that your dad, you have all these memories of you guys watching those horror movies when you were a kid, and that's
Sure.
like an early memory of what made you love it. So I just think it's cool that you did get to share that with him in such a core way. Can you tell me what is the art of playing the perfect monster? Because you were telling us about how the specific makeup allows you to articulate. I was
Yeah.
curious about how you bring that into your performance.
Um, Kind of depends because most of the time zombies don't have any dialogue, so there isn't a whole lot of except for attitude. I did quite a few movies with Dustin Ferguson. So Dustin Ferguson had cast me as his kind of a main monster zombie in a few of his films. One called Zombie 8, and that was eight, like the number eight, not eight, because well, I did eat everybody, but that's separate. Um, but I'm like the main zombie in that, and it's just having just a fierce attitude and just playing off the other characters, and just um, it was fun. It was fun to I literally did all my makeup, went through. They've already done all their scenes, and I literally went through and went kill, 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 kill. They cut it all together, so it looks like it was a whole day of killing, but I did it all in like 40 minutes. We were just covered in blood, and we're like, okay, it's a wrap. So those type of things are very intense and fun, but it's like the makeup. I would take 2 or 3 hours sometimes. I would put all this detail in. Sometimes the other projects I worked on, it's over in a brief second, and so it's done. So knew that I need if I wanted to get better screen time, I'd have to develop the acting side of it, and talking and working on dialogue, and those are the types of roles that I'm more interested in now.
Well,
Like
how did you go about that? Because I assume you were also practicing how you were doing acting behind the scenes even before you had the roles. So how did you maneuver into that?
um, had some friends that were just it was just a my whole life has been a weird series of coincidences, and how things like line up, and just I'm like, man, I want to get into acting. And the guy was my friend was a photographer, and he did my headshots, and he's like, I just happen to be working on the play The Crucible, and you would make a perfect judge. And I'm like, whoa, what's a play? I don't even know what I'm doing. So they brought me down, and it wasn't a huge role. It was for Judge Hawthorne in The Crucible. So I wasn't the main judge, but I was like kind of the. Are you familiar with the play?
Yeah, the Crucible's great. I've seen the
Yeah.
movie. I
Okay.
one day need to see the play.
Yeah. So that was my first uh, attempt at doing theater. So we built this place called the Theater of Doors in downtown LA, in this weird loft, like open space, and they built. We built the whole theater out of like just what reused walls that they found places, pallets that stacked on top, and put chairs on everything. And we did this like community theater that we built out of nowhere, out of nothing, and it was great. It was the performances were fantastic, and um, being backstage when the final scene with John Proctor happens, and having the entire audience, like probably 50 or 60 people every night, um, standing ovations, everybody clapping, and you hear that you get that energy from the crowd, and it feels great. And I that kind of helped solidify that I really love acting. This is new and fascinating, and I want to pursue more of this and less of regular boring work. Uh, and um, so that play turned into a couple plays, and then I got cast as um, for the different haunts and stuff that are around. I worked. There was a. You ever heard of a guy named Rob Zombie? Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
uh,
he's. Some
band
people have heard of him.
leader, filmmaker. Yeah.
Yeah. So he decided he was going to have his own haunt, called Rob Zombie's Great
What is
American
a
Nightmare.
haunt?
A haunt like at Halloween time, like they have like a haunted house.
Oh, is that like new slang? Never heard anyone call it a haunt. That's cool.
In Los Angeles, we have a bunch of theme parks that have Halloween themed mazes full of actors that scare the crap out of people. There's Not Scary Farm. They've done it for like 50 years. Then Universal Studios has their own Halloween Horror Nights that they do at all their locations. And then there's a lot of smaller ones. And Rob Zombie decided he wanted to take a stab at doing his own. And it was local. It was right down the street in Pomona. and they were looking for actors to audition, and it was close. I worked. I don't know. Okay, I'll just audition, and I went through the process, and I ended up getting cast as Captain Spaulding uh, for in the live action version of this haunt. And
And
there
that's from
was
his film series, right? Devil's
yeah,
Rejects.
Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses, played by the great Sid Haig. Rest in peace, Sid. Um, and so I got to grow my beard out and become Captain Spaulding every night for about 6 weeks. It was a Thursday through Sunday, 4 nights a week for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and they had live bands, that all these killer bands that came through. And every night was a different musician or a different group of bands, and then they had three different mazes based on his movies. And I worked in the Captain Spaulding's museum, basically his murder ride, and I was the for the first half of the thing. I was Captain Spaulding within the maze, jumping up and scaring people. And it's kind of because there's a lot of younger people that do the haunts, just because it requires a lot of energy. So I'm one of the older guys, so they had me be more like a manager, kind of breaking people and making sure that everybody was doing their jobs, but not really. But you know, so I was
All
more
dressed
in,
as Captain Spaulding.
yeah, and yelling at people and getting paid to insult everybody was awesome. And then I ended up getting moved up to the lobby, and it was great. It was awesome to. I didn't realize what a freaking awesome job that was until later, until hindsight. And then I started watching all the movies and I got to meet Sid a bunch of times, and it was fantastic. And but working with a lot of the people that were involved in that haunt, there were makeup artists. They're all in the industry that have worked on tons of movies, and so I got connected with a lot of people, and that opened up the initial first doors for me to, you know, do my makeup and get cast in movies and little bit parts, and everything grew from there.
Yeah, I guess I never thought about it, but yeah, okay. So haunts, the idea of those very elaborate. I'm from Indiana, and we had a very big one that would pop up every year, and they would turn an entire like 6 acre paintball course into a massive like multiple house
Cool.
event people would go to, and I never thought about how many actors and what it all would go into just doing that just for a couple months of entertainment. And then
Yeah.
you're doing it in the big leagues because LA, you're right, it has all the actors, it has all the highest talent.
Yeah.
What
Well,
was it really like day to day behind the scenes there?
it was hard. Our haunt was different because there's I guess Rob Zombie has a different prestige. You know, he's rock and roll. He's part of the horror, the rock and roll world, and but he's also in the movie world. So people that came through our haunt, there was a lot of celebrities that came through. Um, it wasn't very well attended for some reason because there's so much competition. Uh, when I say, yeah, I work for Rob Zombie at Great American Nightmare, they're like, what? He had a haunt? Oh, I'll have to go check it out next year. What? I mean, they just didn't get it. And I saw advertising everywhere, but when we're so busy working on it, um, so like you never know who's going to be coming through. And so John Five from his band would come through like almost every night, and Rob and Sherry came through with their kids. Um, uh, Tommy Lee from Motley Crue came through a few times. I met Phil Collin from Def Leppard. He came through, and I looked at him. I'm like, hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. He's like, oh, like he knows that I recognize him. But I looked at him and I said, hey, didn't you used to play guitar in a band called Girl? And he's like, whoa, that was his band in high school. And all his friends were like, "Whoa, good one, mate!" Like that. 'Cause I freaked him out, but apparently he's terrified of clowns. So a big giant clown coming up and telling him what he did in high school really upset him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
got right to the fear of it. I love
yeah.
that.
So, but that was the other thing too. Is like you don't realize how people love being scared. They pay good money. You paid 40 or 50 bucks for a ticket. You get to see killer heavy metal bands. Um, different bands. There were punk bands. There was EDM music. There was all kinds of stuff. Different. things for pretty much every genre in the, I mean, not country, but in the rock metal world. Um, and but you see how like friends would come through in groups, and they'd have like the friends would be all, "Hey, get this," that they totally terrified. So I'd like zero in and just focus on them, and just it's I guess it's kind of sadistic, but I really enjoyed scaring the crap out of people. But then you get people that are really drunk, so it can be dangerous and violent. Um, there was also Oktoberfest, so people are drinking giant, huge beers and coming through the mazes. And there was a few fights that happened. People got hurt. We scared the crap out of someone. They turned and run the wrong way and went straight into a wall and knocked herself out. You know,
Oh man. So
um,
there's the capacity for real terror here and some
yeah,
injury.
but there's security and we have protocol set up. There's a flow to the mazes and stuff. Most people are there for fun, but there's some other people that went through with a chip on their shoulder, looking for trouble. There's always that element. So you have to learn how to keep your space. Um, don't be close enough where you're in their face or you can get hit. You have to be like, well, you missed. Yeah. But it was fun.
You mean
And
like
if
people who like go in who they're almost like trying to prove they won't be scared, or like, what do you mean chip on their shoulder?
they just have an attitude, like they're probably a-holes to begin with. Um, Two, they're drunk. They're walking through. This isn't scary. This is you're trying to put that cross arm. Just like put your guard down, have some fun. They're the ones that complain on the internet. Instead
Mm.
of going in and just having an open mind and being like part of it and enjoying it and stuff. So part of my job was like I would mess with people, and like the guy would always have the girl in front of him. And I said, "Wow, look at you, Mister Tough Guy! You let her go out in front to protect you. Whoa, man, you're a tough girl!" Like that, and I start flirting with the girls, and through their dates. But you just kind of play with them to get them, because like some people are like into it, and other people are just like just kind of cruise through. And it's a different world. Takes a lot of energy. And if Rob did it again, he ended up doing it the next year in um, I think Scottsdale, Arizona, or Phoenix, Arizona, and then he moved it to Chicago, and apparently Chicago went really bad because as part of the maze, the maze was set up of all the different serial killers, and they had a Gacy exhibit, and Gacy was from Chicago, and the
Oh.
families of the murdered children, the families still live there, so like there's huge protests. And so I don't know if that went over so well. But if Rob were to come back and do it again, I would audition in a heartbeat. That would be a lot of fun to do it again.
Yeah, so you said that was the time you got to play a clown. You
Hmm.
also you didn't play this clown, but you were in his film franchise, and this is where we actually kind of have a mutual connection with John Lechago.
Yep.
I was wondering if you could tell me how you got into the Killjoy
Killjoy.
films.
I knew you were going to say Killjoy. So that's another thing where John Lechago had made a post and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a few monsters to help finish this dinner scene. Uh, who can help out?" And I got tagged into the conversation and sent him some of my monster stuff, and John's like, "I love it. Come on down." So I cleared my schedule and we filmed it. Were you there that night?
No, I didn't work on Killjoy
Oh
actually. I
no,
met
I'm
John
sorry.
later.
Okay, I jumping the gun. This is when I first met John. So this was a movie not Full Moon related, but it was John Chago related. It was called Feast of Fear, and then it got changed. It
It
went
got
through a
changed a
couple
couple
different names.
times. Pigster.
Pigster was the final name, but so I did this kind of like weird demon thing, and it was a really bizarre movie, and like so there's a lot of crazy characters, but the people that I met on that set were Alan Maxson, who's in a lot of the Full Moon movies, a great friend of mine now.
He
Um,
just made his own movie too a little
yeah,
while ago.
Alien Planet.
Yes, yeah, he's
Yeah,
making it happen.
yeah, no, we've been great friends for the last almost 10 years. 10 years, 8 years. We've worked on about 7, 8, 9 projects together. I love Alan; he's great. But getting these working relationships, we all kind of click. And when John Lechago had his next movie that he did was Killjoy's Psycho Circus, and there are these. I guess it's Killjoy in space, and there are these the I forgot the number of psychos, but there's a bunch of psychos, and I think I was psycho number one, and it was cool. It was like part Star Wars. I was like a hologram, and we had laser blasters and stuff, and that's when I got to meet a lot of the Full Moon people, and then afterwards, the next movie that John Lechago did was Blade: The Iron Cross, and I got cast as the big bully cop.
And that's actually where we met for the first time.
Yeah, that was great. That was so much fun to work on. And there's a picture of my son. He's about 6 years old, holding up the original script that Ken Hall wrote for Puppet Master with the replica blade. And so, fast forward, I think maybe 10 years later, I'm working in the Puppet Master franchise or universe. So it's so weird how little inspirations turn into reality, and life has manifested a lot of great, fun, amazing opportunities for me to meet great people, and God, that was so much fun. That last time when we worked, right before the pandemic hit,
Yeah.
when we did that green screen stuff, and
Yes, that was a fun day. Those pickup shots.
I had blood coming out of my nose for 3 days. It was a
I'll
lot
have
of
to
blood.
I'll have to put it here, but I have a shot that I got where they had Alan Maxson actually dressed as Blade in a lot. He
Yeah,
was like in a full body costume, and on the
yeah,
green screen they were going to shrink him down, and this was how they were going to get Blade running around the factory to scale.
yeah.
And he swings the hook, and the hook comes off his hand, and it flings towards the camera and
It was
hits
like in
the
3D.
yeah, and it hits the
It
lens
was
right in
perfect.
front of me and goes across the across my capture. Yeah,
That was so funny.
yeah, those things are wild. And the fact that we would shoot these movies in like a week was crazy.
Yeah, it was. The same place that we filmed. I forgot the name of the studios, um, but it's like it's an old meat packing plant from back in the 20s or like the turn of the century in downtown LA. So it has all these levels, and then in the basement, it's really scary. It's really dark,
Hmm.
and they turned it into like a different movie studio. So on one floor, there's like the police set, which is like vintage, old school LA, and then
Has the
there's
bullpen.
yeah, just it's got everything. Every floor is different. And we did actually a television series called Elevator in that same place, and being stuck in that building in the dark, that place is super haunted. There's a lot of bad, like creepy energy in that place, and but for us to be able to work and bring the full moon universe alive in that environment, it was just perfect, and I love working with everybody at Full Moon. That was one of the highlights of my life.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I consider it like a badge of honor, just because I'm from the Midwest and people still really love Puppet Master in the Midwest. And it's like I'll meet people and they go, "Oh, what did you work on?" And I'm like, "Oh, you like Puppet Master? Yeah, I worked on Puppet Master 13," and I always get a laugh. Yeah, it's so great. And John Lechago, man, he's genuinely one of like the best directors working in the B movie industry.
Yeah, no, he's super cool. Such a nice guy, and yeah, haven't since the pandemic. It's been real hard because I haven't seen a lot of the people. I still run into Brooks Davis. He does the Full Moon booth at different horror conventions. So I've been able to say hi to him, and but Alan I still talk to all the time.
Did you work on Alien Planet?
Indirectly, I'm actually an associate producer on it. I helped with the funding. I was a backer on his Indiegogo. We've worked on so many projects together. One of the biggest things that we did was a Dead Dame in Hollywood, and that's a 1940s noir comedy where Alan Maxson was the lead, and I played the chief of police, and it was hilarious. It was so much fun to work on, and I think you can stream for free on Tubi.
Let me ask, what would you say the difference is between Hollywood proper and Hollyweird, where a lot of these B movies and monster movies exist? And how
Oh,
much of it is separate and how much of it crosses over?
Um, I think it kind of depends on who the actors are. They're they're definitely separate, um, but it just depends on. I think what separates it are budgets. Um, so there's like no budget, there's micro budget, there's low budget, and then there's like uh, I don't even know how much money the asylum films are. So the asylum films are very similar to like Full Moon, but they have like their own kind of thing. But they're like the wacky shark movies and was it Sharknado and all this stuff. I'm sure those are $1 million plus budgets because they have tons of VFX and they cast a bunch of huge um, uh, actors that are either popular or were popular and stuff, and kind of reviving their careers and stuff. So there's a few crossovers from some of those things that everybody kind of knows, but they're different worlds. You have to. So I think it's just kind of depends on which circles you work in. If you're a lot of the full moon people, there's a lot of big actors that have worked on stuff and gone on to other things, and a lot of people have come back. And full moon's great. I wish there was a lot more full moon type movies being made, today, because a lot of the stories are cool and they hold up.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think I was talking about this with Peter actually on the show. He was my second guest because we were talking about our favorite full moon movies, and mine was Head of the Family. It's a very wild movie. It's very fun and unique. And to what you just said, it's like it's almost like when you have these micro budget or lower budget movies. I'm not exactly sure where Full Moon would fall in that spectrum, but they actually get to try out a lot of things that probably wouldn't get tried out at the higher echelons.
Yeah,
And like because of that, they've been offered how many times? Like people behind the scenes know that they get offered all the time for someone to come by, get the rights to say Puppet Master, and then make the higher Hollywood one, and they don't let
yeah.
them do it. And I'm glad they don't. They don't deserve
But
it.
they did once.
Littlest
There's
Reich.
Yeah, that was uh, was it Fangoria that did that?
Yeah, but at least like they're like the magazine that is
Yeah,
that catalogs horror and canonizes it. So at least that's like proper hands. Like
yeah,
I don't think anyone would have liked to see the Warner Brothers Puppet Master. It would have been a butchery.
yeah. Well, yeah. No, it's just it. There's a creative niche, and for the most part, everything has been done with practical effects, old school, um, and it has a traditional look and feel and vibe to everything, where it's not just like this hokey CGI. Like, oh wow, it's so fake.
Mm-hmm.
And there's they have a legacy, and they've been able to maintain it for God over 30 years. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really like. I forget the name of his special effects company. Maybe you can help me. But Tom Devlin.
Tom Devlin, 1313 something, 1313 effects. Yeah, yeah. Tom's awesome, and he's got his monster museum in Boulder, Nevada, right where the Hoover Dam's at. So that's really cool if you're ever in Las Vegas. It's like 30 minutes away. Just great place to check out. He's got all these different rooms and different like. Have you been there yet?
I have not been there. I want to go there because I know he's got a gremlin. I'm pretty sure. I saw it
Yeah,
in one of the photos.
he's got a little bit of everything there, which is really cool. And a lot of like sometimes celebrities and other like famous actors and musicians and stuff stop by, and they always post pictures, and they do special parties and nights and stuff. But I haven't seen Tom in a while. But yeah, he's cool. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, and in terms of what he does for movies, it's like it's the old school foam works. I know I'm not saying the right terms, Tom and friends, but it's like old school foam works where they make the puppets and they'll make various versions of them, so that way you can
Hmm.
throw them around and there'll be more articulated ones that you can puppet with sticks and then remove the sticks in post.
Yeah, yeah, no. So when I was working with Blade, doing our stunts, I was the stunt puppet, so it could take a little bit of a beating, you know. So that was the one that was. It was kind of ironic because so the scene that I'm in with Blade, we're battling it out. we were running out of time that day, and they said, "Oh, we can't. We're hard out at this time. There's another production coming in. Are you available tomorrow?" And I'm like, I wasn't scheduled, but so um, they said, "Well, we'll figure it out." But they were doing that live streaming, so I went to work, my regular job, and got off work, and I'm watching on a live stream. I'm like, wait, that's me. Wait, that's my hat. Wait, what's going on? And they had, of all people, my friend Dustin Ferguson was stunt doubling for me and doing all the close-up stuff. So in the scene that they cut back and forth, it looks like Blade and I are like duking, battling it out. That's actually Dustin Ferguson's hand doing some of the stunt stuff. So like when the things going and coming through his hand, that's Dustin's hand, which is really cool. Um, so it was like an out of body experience. I'm like, wait, how can I be watching myself doing this stuff and it's not me?
When I watch Ginger Weed Man, there's this scene early on. That's another one. Actually, Brooks wrote and directed that one
Yeah.
to give him his flowers. Um, there's a scene in there where the scientist guy, is just working in his lab, and he goes, and every time he turns to the computer and starts typing, his hands become really thin and knobby, and those are my friend Peter's hands.
Nice.
So I always watch that, and I'm like normal looking guy, really thin Polish guy's hands as he's typing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the thing is, the difference between Dustin and me is my hand. I'm hairy, and then you look at the close-ups, and he doesn't have any hair on his hands because they did like the prosthetics, the special effects. They made like blood and gut. So if he would have had hairy hands, it would have been like all in. They would have had to shave my hands if I did it. Uh, but yeah, no, it's the we're like the two people on Earth were like, yeah, we doubled. He was my stunt double. He's also a director. Uh, he directs tons and tons of movies, and he's kind of pretty accomplished. And the biggest movie that I've done so far to date is with Dustin Ferguson with the remake of Spider Baby, coming full circle with we were talking about Sid Haig earlier. So Dustin Ferguson acquired the rights to remake Spider Baby from Jack Hill, and since not that many people are still alive from the original cast. He tried to make it so that he bring back some of the original people that are still around. So Beverly Washburn was one of the girls from the original movie. She came back and she plays a different character. Um, to have the Sid Haig is famous for being in the Rob Zombie movies, so he brought in Robert Mukes, who is from House of a Thousand Corpses. So that kind of ties in Sid Haig, and then they brought Lon Chaney on board, who's the grandson of Lon Chaney Jr., who was in the original um, uh, Spider Baby. So and Brink Stevens and the cast and crew, everybody's great. We have new kids that were amazing, and I was cast as Bruno. I played Lon Chaney's character in the remake.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
gotta feel
so
pretty good.
it was some huge shoes to fill, and it was a lot of fun to work on. And we shot in this old house in Santa Clarita, and it's just coming out right now. It got distributed by Scream Team Productions and should be making the rounds. I think you can buy the DVD, Blu-rays currently, and then it should be streaming shortly after that. But it was a lot of fun, very emotional for me to work on. Um, I'm a huge Chaney fan, so I love the Chaney family, and for me to be able to um, take on such a huge role, and also I'm friends with Ron Chaney as well. So to be able to, work with the Cheneys, like this is it's I'm come full circle in my whole
Yeah.
career in life. So and
How did you go about doing the character? Were you trying to emulate the original performance?
um, yes and no. When I think about things, it pulls me out, and sometimes I just react. I try to react naturally and just be in the moment. And um, when Dustin Ferguson approached me, he said that he was in talks about redoing this, and he said he keeps rewatching the film over and over, and he could not think of anybody except me in that role. So that was a huge um, honor for me to help him take on that role and to be a part of this the thing. And when we did our read throughs, everybody was just perfect in their parts. And it came together, I think, really, really well. It's just a lot of times it's hard to get stuff out and get it out to the public and get good positive feedback because there's so many just the internet. I don't even know if they're real people that hate so much. It's like there's like negative bots that go around attacking posts, and people sometimes don't give remakes a chance. But everybody that worked on this, we put a lot of heart into the film, and um, I loved it. I think it came out really, really well.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's hard to discern what's good feedback or criticism. But sometimes, especially with movie reviews, it's very easy to tell if their first sentence is something like "I hate remakes" or "This is just another dot 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 whatever." Then you kind of know they're coming into it with animosity.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm curious though, like how did you get into the role? Like, what did you take with you? And you talked about being natural with it, but what does that mean?
Well, so Bruno is the caretaker to some three or more, it's at least three, if not more, children. And he's been the caregiver for a long time for this family. The children suffer from a rare genetic disease, which kind of turns them mad and crazy. As the older they get, the more dysfunctional and kind of deformed, uh, mentally. And so when they're young, everything's fine. But as soon as they hit their teenage years, watch out. There's things are happening. So, being that I'm a dad, I have kids. I've been my caregiver for my father, so I approached it from that type of just kind of playing it naturally. Like, these are my children. I need to support them and help them out, and do whatever it takes to, you know, cover up or help them, and but be stern. Like it's not nice to hate. You should never hate anybody, And these um, kids get into a lot of trouble.
You said it's coming out.
It's out on DVD and Blu-ray. Um, or Blu-ray. We had an initial release, and then that was for like the backers and people that help fund the movie. Um,
Hmm.
and I got it right here. I don't know if you can
Oh
see that.
man, yeah, that's wild artwork.
Yeah. So, but this is a special black and white version because the original was in black and white. So the when this came out, the people that funded the film got these special versions. So it's like an instant collector's item. Um, and then Scream Team is our main distributor, and they're putting it out everywhere. It's available online through them in a couple different versions. I think there's an autograph version that you can still get, and then it should be in all the retail stores shortly, as well as the different streaming sites coming up. Probably closer to Halloween, I'm going to assume.
Have you been involved in other films that were funded the same way? I'm just curious because it's kind of a new world for to be able to get independent movies going.
Yeah, I have. Some of the movies I've been in have had like Indiegogos. Not too many. Most of them are pretty much self-funded, or I don't know. So that's like a production, a producer aspect that I don't. I'm not. I'm in front of the camera. I'm not behind the scenes, so I
You're
haven't
the
got.
artist.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not too connected with how those inner workings happen. Um, just as long as I get paid. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. But the
Kidding,
thing,
not kidding.
Yeah. uh, anyways, yeah, I'm waiting for my check. No, I'm kidding. Um, but no, the thing with that, it's just there are a lot of people that fund like pretty big movies, and they have huge campaigns and raise, $100,000, which is like, man, that's an obscene amount of money. It should be able to make a lot and stuff, and they're able to turn that into like a little, empire where they, do one movie after another, after another, after another, and they're really pros about setting up that the template for the crowdfunding. Long Legs just came out, and it's
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet. I saw the trailer.
with Nick Cage, and it's doing phenomenal. Like the opening weekend, it's already like $20 million for horror movies. Great. So movies like that and Terrifier 2 did huge,
Yeah.
huge, huge money, which is great for the industry because I think it's making people like, oh, hey, horror's fun again. And I think it kind of lost its steam for a while, but movies like that are doing so good in the theaters that they're getting horror back in the spotlight in on the actual screens, and it's I think it's really difficult to get movies actually on the screens versus because everybody likes streaming or watching everything at home. But it says something when people will fork out $20 to go see a movie on screen and see it over and over again. There's a lot of great movies, and uh, there there wouldn't be without the fans, without people in the audience filling seats, the industry would be gone. So it's very important that everybody supports.
You touch on something there that's really interesting, which is that horror is getting people back into theaters. And that's kind of interesting right now, given where the economy's at and where the industry's at, because horror films historically are the cheaper films to make. They
Yeah,
don't cost as much as science fiction or a Star Wars or
sure.
something.
Hmm.
And yet they probably psychologically are a better incentive to get people to show up in a group setting, because that's part of it. It's the same as you were telling me about working at those haunts.
Yeah,
It's bringing people through a lived experience with other people.
yeah.
Or it might be perfect to get people back into theaters.
It is, especially with good horror. The thing about it is, you know, when you're in an audience in a room full of people and the energy is good, not the people on their phones, not the people talking shit, or just you know eliminate those people, but people that are there for the experience. Just went and saw Quiet Place, I guess 3, the new one, and you needed to be in that theater and it needed to be dead silent because that's part of the tension. That's its gimmick. Um, uh, Terrifier 2 was just full on gore fest. It was awesome. Uh, David Howard Thornton, amazing as Art the Clown. Got to meet him recently at Monsterpalooza. Such a nice dude, and I can't wait for part 3 because it's already done. And those guys are Damien Leone is the director of that trilogy, and man, those guys are nuts. But I'm sure it's going to be super gory and stuff. But when you're in the audience and people, have you seen Terrifier 2?
I've seen the first one. I've not
Okay.
seen the second one yet.
Okay. Second one is just it's just bigger budget, more money, more effects, gore, 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 gore. They did stuff I've never seen in movies before, where I look over and this couple gets up and leaves, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, they left. They didn't even wait. And then about 10 minutes later, they both come back and sit down and finish the movie.
Ah,
so
ah, they had to know what happened.
but the thing is like it's so like, oh my god, and when you see the movie, you'll know. Oh, I know what scene he's talking about. Um, and there's some eye opening things. I mean, but people like to be scared to a certain level, but it's a controlled scare, and life is scary enough. Being able to afford your rent or be able to afford food or take care of your kids and stuff. It's terrifying. Um, but you want some escapism and go just for 2 hours or an hour and a half to go into the theater or turn on a movie or all these streaming series, like Fallout and stuff. You get enveloped into these stories and you get pulled in, and they're really good, and it keeps you occupied, in the kind of makes life a little bit better. So you can tune in and watch something that you like, and there's so many choices now. It's really with between streaming and the theaters. I think the industry has a lot of potential to be, great again. It's just not great. I'm not doing. I didn't just go political.
We're
Yeah,
going political.
no, we're not. No,
Donald Trump's in the house.
nope. Erase this whole thing. Let's get retake. Take two. I think that
Action.
I think that the industry is has a potential to come back, and I think everything will be good if as long as there's no more strikes, and we just everybody just keeps moving forward and works with each other and supports the industry, and you got to go to the movies, you got to see stuff, you got to support it, share it on social media if you like it, be positive, and it's good. It's fun to. I love going to movies and seeing like a friend's name, like they did special effects or did this or do that. I'm the first one to shout out their name, like yeah, So, and I'll tell them. I said, hey, I shouted your name in the theater, but it's in the credits. That's what it's for. But I love seeing my friends do well, and it's fun. It's really neat to. I mean, I tell my kids. I said, think about it. What other parent gets to take their kids to these screenings, and you get to meet the stars? I mean, no one gets to do this stuff. And I said, we live in a world where we get to hang out and meet these people and go to conventions, and that's Kane Hodder. You shook hands with Kane Hodder. It's Jason Voorhees. I mean, this is like once in a lifetime type of thing. It's like you watch the old movies back in the day. It's like, wow, that's John Wayne. Oh, it's like it's not real. It's a movie, but this is real. And the horror community is great. Very, very, very supportive people. The filmmakers are, want to tell a story, and the fans reciprocate. And I don't see, comedy or drama have their own conventions. Is there a drama convention where people buy
No.
T-shirts? I got whatever.
Yeah, there's
It's,
just general movie collection or conventions, and everyone goes to those for that. You made me think, but you're about the take one political bit. It just made me think too that horror has a bit of inoculation to what I think is affecting a lot of the higher up movies right now in the writing, which is just that like it's kind of hard to throw in a message in horror. It's got to make you scared.
yeah.
As an example, there are movie journalists in recent years that have watched Starship Troopers and then written about how it was actually pro-nationalist. And it's like the movie is critiquing nationalism. That's why you're watching all these funny PSAs of these gung-ho soldiers going off to kill sentient life.
Yeah.
And it's like the mistake people are making now in Hollywood, a lot of it is no one wants to go be lectured at a movie.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that's affecting horror because that's just not in there. I don't know how you'd make that work.
Yeah. There was one movie. I don't remember the title. It came out right when the pandemic hit, and it's about these people get picked up. They get drugged, and they all wake up in this field, and they don't know why they're there. And all of a sudden, these like people start shooting at them, and they're like, "What the hell's going on?" And they're getting picked off, and people are like, getting blown up and shot, and this and that. And it turns out there's these I don't know, a group of affluent rich people that are sitting there hunting them, and it's like done in like a dark comedy. So there's all kinds of like Republican jokes. There's all kinds of Democratic jokes. So it's all fair game. So it wasn't like, oh, it's one sided and all this like crap. It's like it was an equal opportunity to express, hey, both you guys can be a-holes on either side, depending on which extreme. But people take it so damn serious. It's like a sporting event. Like, we got to win no matter what. I'm like, come on, give me a break.
Yeah.
It's just we need to all work together, and until we do, nothing's going to happen. And I don't see any of that happening, and it's really disgusting.
Yeah, but also like bringing all that stuff into art ruins it as art.
Yeah, it can. Um, it probably won't age well. It depends on how it's handled. Like in that one movie, it was done evenly keeled, where it was kind of like there was no favoritism, but it was just made fun of the stereotypical type of people that would have
Mm-hmm.
of each uh, type of character. Um, so you have an engaging cast. You have a bunch of characters that you either love or you hate. These people are such douchebags. You can't wait for them to get nailed, and they're like, "Yeah, they got he got it. He got what he was deserved." And it's like you root and cheer for you know these people. Even Knives Out, that whole series was fantastic. Um, you have to be engaging and be entertaining, and when movies just fall flat, it's just you know.
Yeah, and you can tell when someone writes something that's just like they're just trying to hate on the other side. Like I think that's why like Don't Worry Darling fell flat is because once it came out that she vaguely based the villain on a psychologist she doesn't like, it was just like, are you kidding? That had no that hadn't that really didn't hit any mark.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. Is that a new one?
Yeah, fairly new. It was this one where all these they're all I'll just ruin it. The twist is basically they're all in this weird virtual space that the men concocted
Okay.
just to imprison their women so they could live more traditional Republican lives.
Okay.
And in real life, they're wearing these headsets and they're tied to their beds, and the men just like have to take care of them. And then they vaguely related that to a real life psychologist who has been influential to men. So they show them
Wow.
like at the very end of the movie, like getting unplugging from their headset. You see the woman on the bed, and they sit down and they just listen to this guy's podcast that's telling them how to do it. And it's like
Yeah.
that's such a hit piece. It has nothing to do with anything.
It almost seems like a Stepford Wives meets The Matrix.
Yeah,
Um,
but not done well.
okay.
It's like it's shot really well. It's a really beautiful movie. But
Okay.
a lot of the mistake of their writing was the most interesting parts of it were the things they didn't care as much about as making it out like, oh, this guy's ideology is bad. Like in the virtual universe, there's this weird place where the men go every day, and you never know where they're going because you're with the women. You're in their
Yeah.
perspective,
Okay.
and the reality of it was just where they were going every day was the real world. They're unplugging and
Yeah.
going and being incels. And it's like, okay, I would have rather there been a secret thing that they're driving to every day that we eventually get to see. Like, what's the plot?
Yeah. I still want to see it now. I mean, now I'm intrigued. Yeah.
It had some cool shots in it. I'll give them. It's a well made movie. That's kind
Yeah.
of one of the things that people don't give enough credit to in Hollywood is they're all made at a certain level of great because of the artists that they have access to make them. So even the worst Hollywood movies are still really beautiful.
Yeah. Like one of my favorites are like the John Wick series. I mean, they're just even though it's like the action's becoming almost too monotonous. It's mechanical and all the things, but some of the kills are like pretty intense. But they're still the John Wick one was so much fun, and you just want him to just get revenge, and it's you're with the character on a journey, and it's fun to kind of follow them and live vicariously. You can't not leave the theater and not be like, yeah, have your adrenaline going, want to drive fast, and get in your Tucson, in your Hyundai, and like, me.
Yeah, I love that those movies too, the John Wick, because the first one's pretty self-contained, but then like it leads pretty much right into the next one, and then the next three are kind of like one after the other. Like you have to watch them all to get the whole story.
Yeah,
Um, doesn't it become kind of funny though that by the fourth film you realize that there is nobody, not anyone in the entire world that is not a secret assassin except
yeah,
for the John Wick's wife and the blind guy's daughter. Everyone else is an assassin.
yeah. It's like, oh, you gotta go. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're entertaining, like all the Matrix movies, and it's neat to see how creative they can expand, those universes. Like even the Star Wars. I know all the different series that they're creating based on different characters and their each one's backstory. Uh, it's virtually unlimited. As long as you have money to be able to create these great productions and tell some great stories. So I think it'd be really nice to see independent films be able to showcase some newer talent and let some younger filmmakers step up and try to take the helm.
I do have to, unfortunately, and I think this is fine. We're right at the tail end of our allotted time for this podcast, so I don't mind going there a little bit. But you bring up Disney and Star Wars, man. They're a perfect example of here's some ideology nobody wants to hear. Let's shove it down your throats. Like the Acolyte was god awful,
What's
and
on?
it's terrible because just to your point because Star Wars, yes, they have this amazing IP to work with. People love
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars and they
Yeah.
want to love Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
But then they hire writers and they tell the writers, you don't have to be a fan of Star Wars. You don't have to actually know the canon of Star Wars. You don't even have to care about the canon. Write whatever you want and it doesn't matter. The Acolyte threw out the Force. They
What's the
literally
Acolyte?
make it's
Never heard
their
of it.
newest show. It's their
Oh,
newest show. You don't want to. It's terrible.
skip it.
But they it is canon and they ruin the Force. They make the Force literally female. It is a female presence, intelligence of the universe. It's been getting torn apart on YouTube.
Oh,
And yeah, and Disney is pushing a lot of the woke stuff, and even outside of politics, it's just that ideology does not go well with art unless the art is actually making a point about the ideology. It shouldn't just be pushing it.
yeah, yeah.
And then when you put that in Star Wars, it's like, man, we want to like the Jedi, but it doesn't even feel like the people writing that show like the Jedi. They keep making them awful.
I've never even heard of it. I liked the Mandalorian. Yeah, that was great. And then Book of Boba Fett, not as much until the Mandalorian showed up.
I will
But
say when the blue guy showed up, I literally stood out of my seat because I was a big fan of him in the cartoon. I think his name is Bane.
okay, the
He's a
blue
blue
guy.
guy, red eyes. He shows up. He's like the bounty hunter in season 2.
Oh, okay. He showed up and shot someone. It's kind of like it's like Wild
Yeah,
West. Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like they
So
literally had him walk in from the horizon as the sun
yeah,
was. But yeah,
it
they
was
did the
like
whole
an
scene.
old the old Clint Eastwood movie,
Yeah,
the gunslinger. Um,
yeah. So
but
like I think they have it in them to keep having these moments and keep doing great stories. But then in the same thing in Book of Boba Fett, what was up with the people driving Vespas?
yeah, no, that was weird. It was too. Um, it was almost like it was a perfect product tie-in, but they haven't started selling those Vespas yet. But they all wanted all the kids to drive all the little scooters. Um, it didn't match the universe because the universe is old and ugly and rusty and distorted and bad, and all of a sudden all these beautiful colors, shoo, 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 shoo. Like,
Yeah,
well, great. Now you have colors in there. Then everything should be painted. Everything should be nice and new, And it just it that and that was Robert Rodriguez, I think, that did that episode, if I'm not
was it
mistaken.
really?
I think he
You do
directed.
wonder though, how much of the stuff do you get to decide on a TV show? Like, was he with the special effects guys going, "We need that to be neon pink"? Because like Rodriguez is typically on that shit when it
Yeah,
comes to designing a movie, like Sin City. Holy
yeah,
crap!
I love that movie. Oh my god, that's another like perfect series. I mean, the style, the look, the attitude of every single character. Um, that was a phenomenal franchise, and more movies like that. And that I could watch those movies over and over, and they just pull you right in. They're so visually stunning. It's so that was very refreshing. And um, then who was it? The new Hellboy,
Paul or something. Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman, but they created that whole universe. So it was so perfect. And then when they did the sequel with the new actor, the guy from Stranger Things, it wasn't quite the same. Now there's a third actor and a brand, and like you see the new trailer, it kind of looks like it's like
No, I missed
Hellboy.
this.
It's brand new. It looks like Hellboy meets Evil Dead, and I don't know if it's going to be good or not, but it looks a lot scarier, a lot more like wicked.
That could be
So
fun. I mean, I
yeah,
agree with you. I think that I enjoy watching the new Hellboy in the same way that I enjoy watching the sequel Wrath of the Titans. It almost feels like you're watching a video game that's kind of bad, but it's
Mm-hmm.
fun.
Okay. What's
Or
Wrath of
another
the
one would
Titans? I've never heard of
you've
that.
seen Clash of the Titans.
Oh, Clash, yeah.
Yeah, well, they made a sequel to that one called Wrath of the Titans.
Oh
So
no.
a sequel to the remake, and it
Yeah.
was even worse. But it's fun to watch, and I'll end up watching them back to back. Or the same way they made that British movie Gods of Egypt a couple years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
That was really goofy, and I think they got like it got canceled before it came out because people were like, "Why is everyone in who's supposed to be Egyptian British?"
Yeah.
But I
Well,
care less about that in movies. But yeah.
everybody has that perfect, transatlantic accent.
Yes, it's funny when they don't even try to change their character a bit, but
Oh, I've been guilty of it. I sometimes I feel like that's what my character should do, and I've used it a couple times. I got to be careful, you know. But
yeah.
the accent I used on Blade, it was. I thought, I felt like it would, even though it was L.A., I felt like it would be like a New York cop thing, and I literally based my whole character on one word. And when I had to use the binoculars, binoculars was funny because it kind of reminded me of Bugs Bunny. So I did my whole character based on, but I was checking her out with my binoculars, and boy, she's one fine filly, you know. And that was that set the tone for how I came up with that voice for Blade. So I don't know how I sort of jumped all the way around.
Oh
Um,
no, it makes sense. We were talking about how actors choose to the
Accents.
extent of the accent that they use. Yeah, and like in some cases, like with the Gods of Egypt film, it got a lot of bad press before it even came out because people were like, they're just British people being British, but they're saying they're Egyptian gods. Okay, and then but that's interesting. So you said you based that on one word.
Yeah, because I had to say the word binoculars. It's a weird word to say. So when I said it like Bugs Bunny somehow, and it just clicked. So I remember reading in one of the reviews, they were said, yeah, that cop, he doesn't know if he's from Brooklyn or from Rhode Island or something, Brooklyn or some or Philly. And so I've never been to the East Coast. I went on a map and I looked at it and I said, well, it's like that far apart. I'm like, fuck, I think I nailed it then. If I'm within 100 miles, that should work, right? And apparently not, but it's just a character, it was fun. And to be able to run around and God, I wish we could do more, that movie just was so much fun. I would love to have spent 6 weeks on that instead of 3 days or 4 days.
Well, hey, I think that brings us to a pretty good close for today. Noel, thank you so much for coming on my show. It's
Thank you,
been
Garrett.
great getting to have this window into the world you inhabit, Hollywood and well, Hollywood now, but came up through Hollyweird.
Yeah. No, it's just started as an extra and just loved it and kept just moving forward. So this is something I want to do for the rest of my life.